Good morning. This is the Paradise Unicorn Priestess bringing you day 194 of A Course in Miracles, the Yin translation, where we use female words. This would be July 13th if you're starting at the new year. This is the introduction to chapter 23. Do you not see the opposite of frailty and weakness is sinlessness? Innocence is strength, and nothing else is strong. The sinless cannot fear, for sin of any kind is weakness. The show of strength attack would use to cover frailty conceals it not. For how can the unreal be hidden? No one is strong who has an enemy, and no one can attack unless she thinks she has. Belief in enemies is therefore the belief in weakness. And what is weak is not the will of God. Being opposed to it, it is God's enemy, and God is feared as an opposing will. How strange indeed becomes this war against yourself. You will believe that everything you use for sin can hurt you and become your enemy. And you will fight against it and try to weaken it because of this. And you will think that you succeeded and attack again. It is as certain you will fear what you attack as it is sure that you will love what you perceive as sinless. She walks in peace who travels sinlessly along the way love shows her. For love walks with her there, protecting her from fear, and she will see only the sinless who cannot attack. Walk you in glory with your head held high and fear no evil. The innocent are safe because they share their innocence. Nothing they see is harmful, for their awareness of the truth releases everything from illusion of harmfulness. And what seemed harmful now stands shining in their innocence, released from sin and fear, and happily returned to love. They share the strength of love because they looked on innocence, and every error disappeared because they saw it not. Who looks for glory finds it where it is. Where could it be but in the innocent? Let not the little interferers pull you to littleness. There can be no attraction of guilt in innocence. Think what a happy world you walk with truth beside you. Do not give up this world of freedom for a little sigh of seeming sin, nor for a tiny stirring of guilt's attraction. Would you, for all these meaningless distractions, lay heaven aside? Your destiny and purpose are far beyond them. In the clean place where littleness does not exist, your purpose is at variance with littleness of any kind, and so it is at variance with sin. Let us not let littleness lead God's child into temptation. Her glory is beyond it, measureless and timeless as eternity. Do not let time intrude upon your sight of her. Leave not her frightened and alone in her temptation, but help her rise above it and perceive the light of which she is a part. Your innocence will light the way to hers. And so is yours protected and kept in your awareness. For who can know her glory and perceive the little and the weak about her? Who can walk trembling in a fearful world and realize that heaven's glory shines on her? Nothing around you but is part of you. Look on it lovingly and see the light of heaven in it. So will you come to understand all that is given you. In kind forgiveness will the world sparkle and shine, and everything you once thought sinful now will be reinterpreted as part of heaven. How beautiful it is to walk, clean and redeemed and happy, through a world in bitter need of redemption that your innocence bestows upon it. What can you value more than this? For here is your salvation and your freedom, and it must be complete if you would recognize it. I think sometimes it may be hard for us to see innocence as the only strength, because here in the dream illusion, things that we would call innocent are the things that are the most vulnerable, and we see so many examples of those things being taken advantage of and harmed and violated in horrific ways. We are even told elsewhere in A Course in Miracles that the ego finds innocence very threatening, and sees it as something that must be punished, that it is the thing that is guilty and is the problem. So is it any wonder that we see a world where that which is represented as innocent so often suffer and show up as seeming to be frail and weak and vulnerable and in need of protection? Now, of course, we know that the things that appear in the dream illusion tend to be nightmares because of the underlying shame and guilt that created it and that keep popping up like, a game of whack-a-mole. Every time you try to pop it down, it just pops up somewhere else. But doesn't A Course in Miracles tell us again and again that the things that we see in this world are illusions, that they don't exist, that they're meaningless, and they're not the will of God? So these stories we see played out of innocents being harmed and betrayed, they can't be what reality is at all. This past learning can't hold as wisdom for us to learn from, because it's based on the ego's strategy to keep us, trapped. It is as though the ego has set up a repeating cautionary tale. Hey now, look, if you decide that you're innocent and everyone else is innocent, well, look what happens to innocent things. Bad things happen to them. They have to be protected. They're weak and frail and vulnerable. Yeah, I guess that's what it would tell us if the last thing it wanted us to do is see ourselves as innocent. A Course in Miracles is repeatedly asking us to try this out as an experiment. Try it out and see what happens. It's asking us to try out not defending ourselves, because it is in defending ourselves that we believe ourselves weak. Inasmuch as I have said unflattering things about the God of the Old Testament recently, there are beautiful things to be found in all Scripture, because Scripture was written by humans making their best effort to reach the divine. And in the Old Testament, we find the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were innocent, being put into a fiery furnace and standing in there utterly unharmed by the fire. And the story of Daniel in the lion's den, Daniel, also innocent, put in the lion's den and just playing with the lions as though they were harmless kitties and them loving on him instead of eating him, even though I'm sure they were kept starving and ravenously hungry. Perhaps these are the stories we should be looking to see that when a person takes on defenselessness and relinquishes attack and trusts that God will always guide them to well-being in every present moment, then in that kind of trust, perhaps we will have those kinds of experiences. I believe in the New Testament it speaks of those who follow the way taught by Jesus not being harmed by poisonous vipers. And of course that led to a tradition of Christians handling poisonous vipers on purpose and getting bitten by them. But the principle is that because this is a dream illusion in which nightmare images crop up out of the subconscious mind due to our unprocessed shame and guilt feelings, that when we take on this innocent viewpoint, the dream ceases to be harmful to us. And even if there are echoes of the previous harmful images, like a poisonous viper or being thrown into a fiery furnace or a den of lions, that the effects in the dream will be us not being harmed. So I'm going to read again this part of it that says, "Walk you in glory with your head held high, and fear no evil. The innocent are safe because they share their innocence. Nothing they see is harmful, for their awareness of the truth releases everything from the illusion of harmfulness. And what seemed harmful now stands shining in their innocence, released from sin and fear and happily returned to love." And I love this phrase, let not the little interferers pull you to littleness. There's still going to be all these things that we encounter in the illusion that are set to trigger us into older ways of fearful thinking, where we go into reaction and attack and judgment. And I love that this says that when we have that knowledge and certainty of our own glory, we will not perceive the little and weak about us. We will see the glory in others when we know our own. And I love that it reminds us that everything you see around you is simply a part of you. So look on it lovingly and see the light of heaven in it. And then we will come to understand all that is given us. That's when the world around us sparkles and shines. That's when we see paradise, the real world. And on to lesson 194, I place the future in the hands of God. Today's idea takes another step toward quick salvation, and a giant stride it is indeed. So great the distance that it encompasses, it sets you down just short of heaven, with the goal in sight and obstacles behind. Your foot has reached the lawns that welcome you to heaven's gate, the quiet place of peace, where you await with certainty the final step of God. How far are we progressing now from earth? How close are we approaching to our goal? How short the journey still to be pursued? Accept today's idea, and you have passed all anxiety, all pits of hell, all blackness of depression, thoughts of sin, and devastation brought about by guilt. Accept today's idea, and you have released the world from all imprisonment by loosening the heavy chains that locked the door to freedom on it. You are saved, and your salvation thus becomes the gift you give the world, because you have received. In no one instant is depression felt, or pain experienced, or loss perceived. In no one instant can sorrow be set upon a throne and worshipped faithfully. In no one instant can one even die. And so each instant given unto God in passing, with the next one given her already, is a time of your release from sadness, pain, and even death itself. God holds your future as she holds your past and present. They are one to her, and so they should be one to you. Yet in this world, the temporal progression still seems real, and so you are not asked to understand the lack of sequence really found in time. You are but asked to let the future go and place it in God's hands, and you will see by your experience that you have laid the past and present in her hands as well, because the past will punish you no more, and future dread will now be meaningless. Release the future, for the past is gone, and what is present, freed from its bequest of grief and misery, of pain and loss, becomes the instant in which time escapes the bondage of illusions, where it runs its pitiless, inevitable course. Then is each instant, which was slave to time, transformed into a holy instant, when the light that was kept hidden in God's child is freed to bless the world. Now is she free, and all her glory shines upon a world made free with her, to share her holiness. If you can see the lesson for today as the deliverance it really is, you will not hesitate to give as much consistent effort as you can to make it be a part of you, as it becomes a thought that rules your mind, a habit in your problem-solving repertoire, a way of quick reaction to temptation. You extend your learning to the world, and as you learn to see salvation in all things, so will the world perceive that it is saved. What worry can beset the one who gives her future to the loving hands of God? What can she suffer? What can cause her pain or bring experience of loss to her? What can she fear? And what can she regard except with love? For she who has escaped all fear of future pain has found her way to present peace and certainty of care the world can never threaten. She is sure that her perception may be faulty, but will never lack correction. She is free to choose again when she has been deceived, to change her mind when she has made mistakes. Place then your future in the hands of God, for thus you call the memory of her to come again, replacing all your thoughts of sin and evil with the truth of love. Think you the world could fail to gain thereby, and every living creature not respond with healed perception? Who entrusts herself to God has also placed the world within the hands to which she has herself appealed for comfort and security. She lays aside the sick illusions of the world along with her and offers peace to both. Now are we saved indeed, for in God's hands we rest untroubled, sure that only good can come to us. If we forget, we will be gently reassured. If we accept an unforgiving thought, it will be soon replaced by love's reflection. And if we are tempted to attack, we will appeal to her who guards our rest. to make the choice for us that leaves temptation far behind. No longer is the world our enemy, for we have chosen that we be its friend. I personally have looked upon A Course in Miracles as the most efficient pathway to ascending the illusion and returning home. It bears great similarity to teachings that have been in the east of the cultures of planet Earth for thousands of years, but it puts it together in a way that removes everything that is not helpful and creates the path to be the most helpful as possible for moving forward. That is how I personally have come to view it. We have seen many of the lessons say that if we take this lesson to heart as a practice regularly in our lives, we save immense amounts of time. And it hints at reincarnation because it makes reference to many lifetimes worth of time being saved. Today's lesson entirely deals with time, and time, according to A Course in Miracles, is a major part of what keeps us trapped here in what it calls a prison house, and it calls us slaves, and that those of us who come into these incarnations here in this slave house, this prison house, and we desire to find the truth very powerfully within ourselves, and we do our best to follow a spiritual path, that these yearnings are in us because we desire to help as best we can to free our other selves here, the other parts of us. There are many wisdom teachings that show us that we trip ourselves up in our storytelling, our internal monologue of how the events play out, the past leading into the future. And this says, in no one instant is depression felt or pain experienced or loss perceived. In no one instant sorrow can be set upon a throne and worshipped faithfully. And in no one instant can one even die. And elsewhere in A Course in Miracles, it says, in no one instant does the body even exist. The body itself is an illusion created by us stringing together the past and the future. So without having a story where we have events that we think of as being past events and events that we think of as being future events, we can't have these painful experiences. It makes me think of the story of a monk who had a toothache and needed to have his tooth pulled, and he lived alone. And he was telling the story about how he pulled his own tooth, and somebody was so impressed saying, wow, how did you do that? Wasn't that really painful? And the monk was like, well, when I set up all the stuff for attaching to my tooth and, pulling the tooth, all of those steps, there was no pain in any one of them. And, the only thing that could be considered painful was the moment that I pulled the trigger on the mechanics to pull the tooth out, and that was hardly any pain at all. And it brings home to us how much of our pain comes from anticipating future pain. And I've even shared my personal faith that the soul that was Jesus experienced no suffering after the Garden of Gethsemane, that the time on the cross was not spent suffering, but safe in the arms of heaven, because Jesus had completely transcended the illusion, had completely seen that none of this is real, and so there was no pain in the experience. That all of the pain was in the Garden of Gethsemane, where there was fear of the future and uncertainty and doubt about being able to actually fulfill what was about to happen, to follow through on what was to come. And that in great agony and pleading with heaven, an angel came down and touched Jesus and gave Jesus strength. And I believe that after that, Jesus had such faith in how much this is an illusion that nothing that happened even touched that soul. I will again reference the teacher's manual that will be part of the reading later in the year of this podcast that's being produced, where it talks about the traits that teachers of A Course in Miracles acquire and the order in which they come, and how trust is one of the things that comes before open-mindedness, and open-mindedness is listed as the very last one. It's not a complete and comprehensive list, but it is given as an important list and a guide to understanding the process. And truly, this lesson is very much an act of trust. To truly trust in God, our future, to give no energy to fearful thoughts, because we trust that God will only bring us well-being, that God is only love, and that love is only kindness. There is no tough love. Painful experiences are all engineered by our own ego and our own resistance and our own unloving thoughts being reflected back to us. God only reflects to us kind and pleasant things. And so when we entrust our future to her, to our mother, we will be guided towards well-being. Always. Release the future, for the past is gone. May it be so, and happy practicing.